They're not. I don't know what those trophies you guys got for TV excellence. I don't know what the. That's not this. These are Nobel prizes.
The Nobel Prize for comedy.
Nobel Prize for comedy. Yes.
See, I've got a guitar back here in the corner too that I played one time, but I keep it back there just in case anybody wants to ask about it, which nobody has yet.
In case anyone wants to bore the shit out of you at your own house.
Exactly. Well, thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This is fun. It's nice to recollect on a time when people used to make television.
Those were the days.
The good old days.
So great. Now we're doing AM radio that you have to fucking download, I guess. So,
we're all doing great.
Oh yeah. Anytime in the middle of the day. What do you got?
I'm on my third rewatch of Magnum PI. So.
Before we get into the episode, I actually just wanted to start with, so people might not know, but obviously once they see all those awards on your mantle over there, that you're not just the voice of Barry on Archer, but you are one of the creators or the creator of Aqua Teen Hunger Force, Squidbillies, and your pretty face is going to hell.
One of.
Right.
Important distinction. I'm not going to mention the other creators here, even though it would be a perfect time to do that. But yes, I feel like it's enough to say that I'm one of.
One of. Great. So you came up with Adam and Matt, so I'm assuming you guys had like you still probably have a pretty healthy competitive streak between the groups.
No,
right?
I think they left me in the dust a long time ago. It's funny though. My first job at Cartoon Network, I worked as a PA on this will date me quite a bit, but I worked as a PA on an ad for a CD-ROM for Cartoon Network. And the producer was like, I'm not hiring, but I'll direct you to someone. And she directed me to Matt, who was doing some probably Yucky Duck promo or some Jetsons bullshit. And so I met with him at an edit facility, and he had his big cowboy boots up on the thing, and just a big dip in, and just spitting into a dip cup. And he was like, he didn't have a position, but he knew someone who did, and he connected me to Andy Merrill, who hired me. So Matt definitely has like a role in starting my career.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, and those guys were across the lobby from us on the second floor at Techwood. They were in the promo department or the on-air department, and they sort of had this long gestating dream of making a C-Lab. Mm-hmm. It sort of felt like a companion piece to Space Ghost, and people talked about this project that they had cooked up, and then it didn't happen, and then they just picked up and moved to New York, and then I lost track of them for a couple of years until Adult Swim sort of started, and then they came back into the fold, and it was great.
Wow. So when Archer came along, how'd you get the role of Barry? Was it something that always wanted to, were they always planning to have Barry as a character, or did he come in later and then you got cast? Do you even remember how it happened?
That's a great question, because I do remember they used to have to bring cuts to William Street to get Mike, our boss, to approve them, and they had a cut for an episode. I think they were trying to. This is back in the C-Lab days. Mm-hmm. Where there was this sort of scam artist that was masquerading as like some Chinese feng shui expert that was totally had his hooks into Captain Murphy, and I think they were trying to figure out how to cast it, and maybe Mike had suggested to them that I do it, just because I think they were initially looking for like an Asian voice. And then it was like, well, it might be funny if we just had this guy who sounds like he could give a shit and clearly not Asian. And I think it worked. It was Master Lou was the name of the episode of the character. And maybe that stuck with Adam or Matt. I don't know. I always wondered because I was always like, what did they hear in my voice? It was like, did they just think I sound like a stereotypical like asshole? which scares me a little bit that they think of me that way. But it has paid for my insurance for years now. So, so I'm happy. I'm happy that they think of me as a perfect cast for an asshole. But
yeah,
you know,
go ahead.
No. The only other thing I remember was I think that Adam envisioned Barry as a cyborg from the very get. And I think I could be completely wrong on this, but my memory is that he was supposed to be a cyborg from the very beginning, and FX was maybe a little more conservative than Adult Swim. You could just throw out a cyborg at Adult Swim and they would be like tired, and at FX they were like, wait a minute, he's a robot and a man. I think so. I think they initially pitched it as that, but it was probably better that he evolved, the way he did over seasons and became a cyborg because of Archer.
Right. And listening back because we've recorded a few episodes, and so I've been watching episodes back, and just hearing Barry, I just can't imagine. I think it goes for everybody, but it's like I can't imagine any other voice being Barry. It's just you are Barry.
That's flattering, but I don't know what I'm doing, and I don't. and when I watch. I'm like I remember, I'm like, it's interesting which choice they made, because I do remember what I was trying to do in the booth, and coming from the stuff that I make, where we're just like a fire hose in the booth. I mean, the script is a suggestion, and then it's just we go off. And in Archer, especially the earlier episodes, it was like, written to a T.
Yeah.
And no variation, but there no variation, needed. It was right there on the page, and it was, and I'm just trying to stick to the script.
Well, you have to cast stuff when you make shows. And so when you're thinking, especially when you're casting a character that's going to be on the show for the duration of the show, in the very beginning, it's like, what are you looking for? Is it genuinely for you? Do you find that it's like when you hear it, it, and it's like that's kind of because you can say what you think you need as much as you want, but then you won't really know until you hear it.
Well, that's interesting. That's an interesting question because so many. When there was a period where there was so much adult animation going out, and some of it felt like comedy pros that wanted to dip their toe in this other world, but didn't really fully understand that there's a visual element to this, that the humor is a little different, and you might have a great improviser, but if their voice doesn't really cut through, it just flattens it in a way that I'm always looking for someone who can make stuff up, certainly, and someone who can act. Sometimes people on camera are not great at just pushing themselves through the mic, and vice versa. Voiceover actors are not always as good. But also, I just look for somebody who's just really funny reading a takeout menu. It's gotta, that voice has just got to cut through. And I don't know, it's like what somebody said about pornography. They were like, it's, I don't know what it is, but I know it when I see it. I know it when I hear it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because there's this commercial right now for like, it's some kind of pharmaceutical commercial. I think it's for like tardive dyskinesia. And there's a woman that is the on-camera woman. And then there's a voiceover actor providing her voice. And it just does not match this woman. Like the voiceover actor has a great voice, but it is so clearly not this woman that it's so jarring to me. I wonder if that's just because I have an ear for it now because I do voice work, but I just can't get past it. It's just not right. Yeah.
Well, the other interesting thing I think was, cartoons used to be all these crazy, wacky voices, and Simpsons is a good mix. It's like they're invented voices, but some of them are invented to be sort of flat, like the Harry Shearer and like, please welcome, Superintendent Chalmers. Like it's got a little bit on it. It's got a little mustard on it, but it's mostly flat. And then there's this whole generation of people that came through that were like, I don't want any of the crazy. And I always loved the crazy, I always loved a little bit of that. I mean, Archer is interesting too, because like Benjamin is usually always this understated character. And with Archer, he's bigger, he's over the top. And you're affecting a voice with Pam, I mean, it's not like this full-blown crazy, but it's just, it's a tweak.
Totally. Yeah, and I remember the early days when they were casting actually, and they were like, and maybe they even told me this when we were doing stuff for Frisky Dingo, but they were like, we don't want you guys to do character voices. But Pam's voice is definitely a character voice, more than anybody except for Gillette. Gillette's probably got the most character voice. But it definitely becomes more of a character as time goes on. So it's really interesting. You're totally right.
Lucky's not really doing anything too crazy.
Yeah.
I'm certainly not. I mean, there aren't a whole lot of, but sometimes if someone puts on that crazy voice, it just comes off kind of thin.
Yeah.
It doesn't quite punch.
Yeah.
I'm using just a lot of verbs for shit that's just in my head.
It's great.
It's not really,
I love it.
But it's there's something to it. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is.
Love it. I
think for Matt and Adam as well, they kind of also like to work with people that they would also like to hang out with. So I feel like there's a little bit of that in it as well. It's just like, if we can hang out and have fun and talk, then you're going to be good in the booth as well, because it's basically the same thing.
And I wonder if that's why the cast ended up all getting along so well, because it's like, well, we could all hang out because these guys would hang out with us.
Oh yeah. If you spend every session explaining what the joke is, it's not gonna.
Yeah, which Matt would do whether you got the joke or not. So Matt was really good about that.
Back in the C Lab days, I feel like I played a few like sort of ancillary characters where it was like Matt and Adam had done their quotient of 5 or 6 different characters in this particular episode, and I'd come over to their little ramshackle booth in their house over there in East Atlanta and just have lunch and do something for half an hour. Those fond memories.
Yeah, totally. Me too. I loved that place, except for the toilet. The toilet was horrifying. I'll bring it up every time we talk about that place. So the episode...
Well, I'm the reason why that toilet is horrifying. And I don't think we should get into it here, but later I'll tell you why.
I'm Amber Nash, the voice of your favorite HR nightmare, Pam Poovey. We're doing an Archer Rewatch podcast because I don't have a job anymore. This season, each episode is hosted by me and a guest co-host from the main cast. We will be breaking down fan and cast favorite episodes out of order, so get used to it. Welcome to RePhrasing. I'll actually really quickly read the synopsis of the episode from the Archer Wiki. Edie's Wedding is the 4th episode of season 6 and the 66th episode overall of Archer. Pam takes Archer to her sister Edie's wedding in rural Wisconsin while being pursued by Barry Dillon. What a guy.
Well, I I remembered. Well, I rewatched it, and my first question for you was, did they loop you crying in the beginning?
That's a great question, and I don't
You
know.
had to run out of sobs
I
at a
have
certain
an
point there.
edit story about that. I remember editing that scene, and there was a lot of question about whether Amber sounded more like she was crying or laughing in that scene. And it was so close, and like we really dug into which one sounded the most like crying.
Yeah, because I think I got that note in the booth too. Because like when, in the middle where it's just like, it's when I really sound like I'm laughing. Do you know if it was one whole 90 seconds worth of me doing that, or was it looped?
Oh, I think we used a lot of you.
Okay.
It wasn't just one take. There was a lot of you in there.
Yeah.
Search for the prime cuts.
so fun. I don't even remember recording that day. I was probably drunk. And it goes on for so long. And there's the coffee happening, which I believe is he making an Irish coffee? Because there's coffee, and then there's something out of a flask, and then whipped cream, which I think is an Irish coffee.
Well, it's a nice visual joke, and I just remember in the early days of C-Lab, I was like, wow, this operation has come a long, long way. From the days of C-Lab where it's like...
But I do feel like that opening joke kind of is an homage to those early Adult Swim days where you would just let a scene play out or one shot play out and have a character crying for 30 seconds to a minute and nobody say anything.
Yeah, I kind of like sometimes the real small, subtle, and you don't even need a whole lot of art. Like there was a Space Ghost episode where Space Ghost got a dog and he hated the dog and it was just barking the whole time. And, we shot this dog in a green screen and we hardly didn't have any art for Space Ghost. And you're thinking like, what's a funny thing for him to say? And then we just had him crank up the radio until it distorts to go over the dog, and then he just looks aimlessly out the window. Maybe I'm projecting, but it worked visually.
One of the lines that I wrote down that I really loved is when Pam says, "Calm down, Ike Turner. Don't want to show up with a black eye." And then Archer says, "Not a real diverse crowd." It's such a great joke.
There was I think probably my favorite line was unless you want to spend the next year opening boxes of her head and feet and shit.
Totally. It's so good.
Well, I thought about too, like on that animation tip, I think when he reveals like his inside as a cyborg, like I think that I have a vague recollection of an episode of C-Lab.
Oh yeah.
Where someone was a cyborg. Who was that?
Quinn reveals himself to be a cyborg at the very end of I, Robot, the episode of C-Lab.
And I mean, now they've got all this wonderful animation and fantastic. But in C-Lab, Adam was like, I think I recall Adam saying something like, "Oh, I just took some popular mechanics book about how to repair engines and just fed it into the scanner." And it's just like the camera moves around this like gear, like it was like the most ramshackle shit, and worked perfectly for Adult Swim, definitely. But FX was like, "We're paying how much for this?"
Yeah, and then that end. This is all the way at the end of the episode, but when the camera pans through the wheat to get to Barry's body, it's just like so great. I know.
I was looking at the little things of wheat.
Yes.
I was like, that's amazing.
Yeah, I really appreciate it more now because, when we were watching it all coming out, it's like it was so small, the increments that things were changing. But to like watch an episode from season 1 and then watch an episode from season 6, it's like, holy shit, like, wow, it's so amazing to look at.
For a show that's just like rat-a-tat-tat, just tight, to have that long moment where you're almost like, are his eyes fading? Yes, they are fading out. And that shot was great.
So good. What were you going to say, Christian?
There's a shot, just talking about the animation and how great it got in Archer. When the grain silo explodes, you can see Barry shoot out of the top. Like they animated just a few frames of him shooting out of the top of it.
So I'm gonna have to frame advance through that. It's amazing.
Another thing I wrote down that I loved so much was Pam's travel outfit, like with her pink pillbox hat. It was just so great and it's unexpected. It's not what I expected Pam to be wearing to the airport, but I loved it.
Well, and then Barry's wearing Bears gear, which I was like, he's a cyborg, right? Like, does he get cold? I guess. I don't know. I guess he does.
I guess he does. And who was Gordon Chumway again? That was one of Pam's.
And Archer says that's Alf's name. It's Gordon Shumway, and that was Alf's name on the TV show Alf.
That was his actual name?
Yeah.
Yeah, on Melmac. Back on his home planet of Melmac. That was his name.
Oh my God. I've dated a guy who you guys all know, but I'm not going to say his name. And his dad recorded every episode of Alf. And so he had like tons of VHSs of every episode of Alf.
Wow.
Oh, those were the good old days. And I wanted to ask too, in the airport, right before Barry shows up, we hear now boarding flight 934 to Green Bay, Wisconsin. Was that Judy?
It was Judy, yes.
Because I stopped it and I was like, I recognize that voice. And then I was like, oh, it's Judy. So that was, you guys could just ask Judy Greer to just say one line like that and it was okay?
I don't recall. I guess we probably were recording something else and be like, oh, can you jump in and do this for us?
And she was like, yeah, cool. No
problem. SAG-AFTRA is going to be listening to this podcast, and the bylaws say that you can have up to 3 characters.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
It's up to 3.
For the same cost.
Yes.
So
okay.
technically.
Good to know.
She was several computers or announcents throughout the series of Archer.
Interesting. Lee Jackson did a lot of computers
and Lee
too.
Jackson did as well, yes.
That's great. That's super fun. I didn't do a lot of other voices. I guess you guys were just like, that's enough, Amber. Get out of here.
Did they take pictures of, like, when did you guys stop doing that? Or did you guys always do that?
Kind of always did. So even through this, we were taking pictures, and then sometimes if we had guest stars, we would try to also make the character look like the guest star. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So like in the real later seasons, we have Stephen Tobolowsky on, and his character kind of looks like him. And then we had Eric Andre on, and it's like, Matt would be like, if we're getting Eric Andre, the character has to look like Eric Andre. That kind of feel.
And would you take pictures of them or just use stuff that was on the internet?
I feel like we would use stuff that was just on the internet for them.
Okay.
Because also the same thing like you're saying about everything else, like with the animation becoming so great, also the illustrators too.
Yeah.
Just learned the techniques and refined the techniques even greater to the point where they're like, we don't need to take a full 180 picture of the guy. There's enough reference on the internet that we can cobble something together.
Did you take a picture of someone for Barry?
We didn't, and I don't remember who it was.
I was telling Amber, like, my dad was the pilot in Skytanic.
Oh yeah, cool.
Very weird hearing a different voice out of clearly his face.
Wow.
But I think the whole reason was just Matt didn't want to rent a pilot outfit. He knew my dad was a pilot. Does he still have that? How would you feel about coming into Atlanta?
Hey, a quick aside, and I think I've told Dave this before. We moved to Georgia in 1980, and my dad's name is Roger Willis, and I believe your dad's name is also Roger Willis. My dad was Roger K. Willis, and
Roger J. Willis.
So just as confusing.
At one point, I remember our home getting a phone call asking for Roger Willis, and there was a lot of confusion. And they're like, "I'm talking about Roger Willis, the pilot," and my dad was like, "No, that's not me."
That was me. Dad had not shown up that night. Was the voice like a crying young 8-year-old?
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah, really weird.
Wow.
I didn't put 2 and 2 together until 20 plus years later when I'm like, I think we got a call for your dad.
Whoa.
That is bananas. Should we do a cheek swab? That's like,
probably.
That's amazing.
It is crazy.
I got to call Dad tonight and go, you finally met Casey.
And you guys went into the same business. I mean, you guys are probably twins.
Don't tell your mother.
Just going back to the pictures and would it be the illustration department that was taking the pictures? Is that who would have been doing it?
Yes.
Okay. What would be fun for people to hear, which they wouldn't know, is when we would go to Floyd County, for a while you would walk in downstairs and it was in the area where they took all the pictures for all the characters, and there was like a whole stock of costumes there, and so you just don't imagine you're going to see that when you walk into the place where the show is made, but it was always so cool. And I think that I posed for some pictures. I don't know if they ever got used for anything, or at least I was just down there for something. I don't really remember. Maybe it was for an interview or something.
It. Yeah, I think they had just moved to Atlantic Station, and it was like in a stairwell. I mean, if I didn't know them, I'd be like, is this going to end up in like a gangbanger situation or something? Like, what is going on? Why are we here? Like, can't we do this in a big public area?
Yeah, and then sometimes you'd walk in, and there'd be like a young woman in like a tank top holding a gun, and you're like, what's going on down here?
It's okay. We got cameras everywhere. We got it shot from all angles. Where are the cameras?
That's so funny.
They're in the wall.
In a scary way, that's also those racks of costumes where a guy snuck in and hid until everybody left, and then roamed around the studio one night.
Right.
Oh my God.
Did
he steal anything?
To this podcast right now?
Well, we did get pictures of that guy, though.
I don't think he stole anything. I think he was maybe having some...
having an episode.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We wanted to watch an episode.
Was he a real big fan? Like a little too big of a fan?
Uh-oh. One of the other lines that I wrote down that I really loved was, "Are your boobs full of corn syrup?" That Mallory says to Lana, which is so horrifying. That poor baby.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, classic.
Yeah, I just it's just kind of crazy. The Bionic Man reference, I was looking out because I was sort of just scanning through the old Barry episodes, and the Bionic Man reference was like pretty spot on. And I remembered, I saw something recently where they referenced the Bionic Man, where the guy was like, but I had a very strong memory of that in elementary school. This kid, he's not going to listen to this, Richie Pilcher, but he, believe it out, big crayon eater. Anyways, we did this like 40-yard dash, and he just said, fuck it. He just did it straight up slow-mo, making the noise.
Nice.
And I don't know, it was like, as long as you're not going to be first.
Yeah.
That's the one I'm going to remember.
Yeah, he's like, now's the chance.
I've got to learn something from that,
That's so funny. I also really appreciated getting to see Pam looking so smoking hot in that dress with the full back tattoo. It really is showcased in that dress. And that Archer mentions it, that she looks so smoking hot. I just think it's...
She gets hotter later, though. When she does all that cocaine.
Yeah. And her boobs stay the same size, but she loses weight.
Right.
And then we meet Edie, and Edie is played by the amazing Allison Tolman. And I don't know if you guys remember this, but when I found out this episode was coming, I really campaigned for being able to play all the Pooveys, like to do like a Clumps, an Eddie Murphy Clumps. I wanted there to be a Poovey Farms episode where I got to play like Pam's dad and the mom. It would have been so much fun.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Allison was she was in Fargo at the time?
Yeah. Or? And there was a lot of people we would meet at like, the TCAs, or we'd meet at Comic-Con, and we'd get along with them really well. And then they'd show up in an episode the next season. And Allison was one of those people because she was so incredible in Fargo, obviously. But she's also just really cool. And I think Lucky and I and Matt and Adam hung out with her a lot because she's a theater person. Like, she came from theater in Chicago and was just like super down to earth, and like was kind of like freaked out because it was her first time at one of these things. And we became really great friends. And now she's in everything. Amazing. Yeah. She doesn't take my calls anymore.
We talked about voices. I think that she did a great voice here. And it was a little bit of a character voice, but also not too extreme. It was like just that right level of accent and bitchiness that was really well done.
I love the two of them just brawling. Oh, it's so funny.
Knocking through columns where I'm like, God, these have all got to be load bearing. When is the roof come down?
And that shitty hotel that they're staying at is so great.
I do think Archer, I think you guys had 6 modern art Sheridan paintings that you just circulate throughout 13 seasons of the show. But I mean, the show kept looking better and better each season. It got better and better looking, and from the inauspicious beginnings of East Atlanta, Mr. Ford, and running Cat 5 cable underneath a house in, I suppose, the statute of limitations have passed on suing for the zoning, the city coming at you about zoning, running a business out of some bungalow in East Atlanta,
Oh, is that house still there?
Yeah. It's nice looking, and I believe the last time I had heard, the owners of the house had a little plaque up that said, Sea Lab Frisky Dingo and the birthplace of Archer, or something like that.
And then I had some of the pubes from the toilet just in the. They had that put in the.
Those will never go away.
No.
They'll always be there.
They still keep the little voice booth that Adam probably put together over 12 hours over a weekend.
Yeah.
That locked from the outside.
Yeah.
And I have a vague recollection of a certain area of the house being just hot as shit, just completely really 90 degrees from just temperature of electronics.
Yeah, it couldn't have been safe.
Yeah.
I have to point out, because we mentioned this in an earlier episode, in the Man from Jupiter episode, that Edie says that somebody drives like an egg, which is a callback to the Man from Jupiter when Burt Reynolds says that. Does Archer... Wait, who says... Does Edie say that Archer drives like an egg?
Edie says to Archer that he drives like an egg.
So great.
What is that referencing?
So in the Man from Jupiter episode, which is the one with Burt Reynolds...
Right.
Adam was on, and he was talking about that episode, and he talks about how Bert was just kind of improvising some stuff, and he's in the car with Archer, and he says, "You drive like an egg." And they're like, okay, cool. And it made it into the episode. And so when Edie says it in this episode...
Or you're like Humpty Dumpty?
Yeah, you're like Humpty Dumpty, I think.
You know what? I mean, a lifetime of Dom DeLuise just howling at anything you say. There's nobody like reining you in.
Yeah.
Quizzical look. It's just that big breathy.
Oh, Dom DeLuise couldn't have had good breath either.
All those sandwiches.
Yeah, and that 70s breath. We all know 70s breath. Okay, anything else? I did write down that Midge, I wrote Midge Olerud loves sucking D. I wrote down. She did a lot of it in this episode. We didn't get to see it.
Yeah, off screen.
Yeah.
I should note.
Yeah.
But I do notice when I was going through some of those episodes, I was like, wow, they all have nudity. Or they're all at least warning for nudity. Mm-hmm. Animated cartoon nudity.
That's why.
Like, man, they just check off all the boxes, man.
Yeah.
All the boxes for mature adult entertainment. No, I wanted to give a special shout out to the brown note.
Oh yeah, the brown note.
The pants shitting Ray, which I thought was very funny.
And so the brown note, is the brown note a true thing that has been researched? Is that true? Like the government researched it?
I believe so, but also he makes a reference to Tesla's death ray, which I think is the same thing, where it's like, for this thing to work, a person would have to be in the exact right position and get hit at this thing at the exact right time when they had full bowels and all these other things.
And already been pooping.
Yeah.
You have to get them like right as they're coming out of a restaurant. Just trained out.
IBS.
I feel like if it was real, they'd be using it on us already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like someone is across the street from the Taco Bell on Ponce. If they wanted any cartoon secrets from me,
just keep getting shot with the brown note. Well, Dave, at the end of every episode, Casey asks some trivia questions. So you're going to get some trivia questions, but I want to let you know that going into this round of trivia, you already have 56 points.
Oh, not too shabby.
Not too shabby.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
How? What?
Well, you got points throughout the episode, so you have 56 points going into the question. Period.
How did I get points? What did I do?
I can't get into it with you right now, but I'm just letting you know that you got 56
another 40
points.
minutes to talk about the point system.
I got it. All right. All right. This is not going to be good.
Okay, that's what everybody
I barely
says.
remember.
Well, the good thing is that these aren't really questions about the show. They're just kind of inspired by the show. And I like to try to go the first one like an introductory one and get harder as we go along. This first one does have multiple parts, though. So Barry says, Archer, come out to play a. What is that a reference to?
The Warriors.
It is a reference to the Warriors. For bonus points, who's the character that says that, and what gang does he belong to?
Oh, God. No. I should know that. Is it the baseball guys? What the fuck are they called? I can't remember.
They're called the Baseball Furies. And no, it's not the baseball
Furies, though. But I've seen it recently. It was like,
yeah.
Archer! Come out and play!
The character that says it, his name is Luther, and he's the head of the Rogues.
Oh. Would have never gotten that.
Never
in a million years. I don't think I saw that. I think the baseball guys particularly terrified me as a child.
I've never even heard of this. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
It
For
was
real?
on TBS a lot, if I remember.
I feel like there's one crotchety old guy doing the con circuit that's still Warriors. So if you see the Warriors out there,
it's him.
Corner him. Corner him by the granola bars and ask him.
Another movie reference at the end of the episode. We've got an ambulance pulling up, and one guy says, "Is that a man?" And the other guy says, "You're damn right it is." Do you know what movie that is a reference of?
I'm gonna make a lame ass. I'm gonna super lame ass. T2.
No, it was actually a reference to The Right Stuff.
Right.
After
I almost mentioned that moment.
I love that movie too. I love that movie. Oh, he's talking about Chuck Yeager.
Chuck Yeager, right?
Chuck Yeager when he breaks the sound barrier and then he's walking and his helmet's all bashed in and.
And I want to say, Casey,
Damn.
I want to say that was a shot-for-shot remake of that scene.
Is that right?
Yeah, we even tried to use the same style ambulance, which is like almost looks like a hearse. It kind of looks like the Ghostbusters car.
Right.
You know, it's funny. We had Lance Henriksen in the last one of the last episodes of, and he played. I think he played Wally Schirra in The Right Stuff. And after 20 minutes of deck, we were like, "That's it." And he was basically like, "Where do you guys live? Let's go hang out."
Wow.
Been a while since Millennium. But, he was awesome. Man, God, I should have gotten that.
All right, last question.
Okay. But going into the last question, you have 63 points.
So he lost points?
No, he gained some points. He's lost and gained. It's been all over the map.
The rules posted on an open forum so that I know exactly how I've started with 56.
A couple of times throughout the series, but in this episode as well, Archer has referenced the 3 laws of robotics. Do you know what the first law of robotics is?
The robot cannot harm humans.
Fantastic.
Wow.
I will accept that. That's 100% right. And the other 2 are all just kind of referencing the first one.
The robot cannot...
by inaction, cause a human to come to harm?
That's correct.
Wow.
I got the first one. I want to quit while I'm ahead.
100%. Fantastic.
Robot cannot make love to...
What's even the point?
And then finally, is there anything you'd like to plug?
Oh, God. If you'd only come to me 6 years ago.
Oh, welcome to the club.
Did I plug this screenplay I'm writing that'll never get made?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I don't want anyone to steal this idea that'll never get made.
Oh, Dave. Well,
I got a couple things in the hopper, but I don't. Yes, no. You can't plug pitches.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, you have, because of the robotics question, ended with 153 points.
Wow.
This is bullshit. This is a lie. You're just making these numbers up.
It's a complicated system that I can't explain to you right now.
Sounds very complex. Yes.
This has been so much fun, Dave. What a blast. Thanks for being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah, we got to hang out soon. Let's go get beers. None of us are working.
Yeah. I'm around. I've got nothing to do. Half-price steak burgers, Tuesday night at the Tap.
This has been Rephrasing, an Archer Rewatch podcast. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at RephrasingPod. Email us questions at rephrasingpod@gmail.com. Please, no pictures of your penis. That's just inviting pictures of their penis, isn't it? Rephrasing is produced by Amber Nash, Casey Willis, and Christian Danley. Our theme song is by Matt Hobbs. I'd like to say a special thank you to Raymond Carr, Jasmine Nash, and Jonathan Strickland. And don't forget, FX's Archer is now streaming on Hulu.